G'day everyone. Before we hop into today's vlog, I just want to remind you to please hit that subscribe button. From now on, I'm going to be putting out daily online poker vlogs. We're going to be tracking my process as I play these 6 max online poker cash games 6 out of 7 days of the week. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get the vlogs as they come out. But for now, onto the vlog. G'day everyone, welcome back to the vlog. It is currently 6 AM here in Melbourne. I've just woken up, getting ready for a full day of poker. No set amount of hands I have to play today, but I will be sticking to 5 tables of 1, 2. Just gonna play as long as I feel like I'm still on my A game. Before we get into the poker, no, I'm starving, I need a feed. Let's go cook. Okay, so it is about 7:15 at the moment. Absolutely delicious breakfast, A quality breakfast. Let's hope we can repeat the A quality and get some A quality poker in today. The goal, as always, is to just play as many hands of A grade level as I possibly can. If I feel myself falling off, getting tilted or tired, that's when I leave. That's it. That's the only rule. Hopefully it will take a long time before I get to that point, but we're going to push it as far as we can. I really want to do what I did yesterday. Just really dial in to what every single opponent at all of the tables I'm playing is doing, and then that'll make it easier to make logical adjustments in the hands I play and make better decisions. It worked out so well yesterday. I'm really just hoping to take on from that and do the same thing today. Don't have any more time to waste, so let's get in the poker. Welcome back everyone. It is currently 5 PM here in Melbourne and I've just wrapped up my second poker session for the day. Was able to get in a total of 4 hours and 31 minutes of play today for a grand total of 1,440. So like we've said, we're not chasing the 1,500 hands every single day anymore, but this is the second day in a row where I have got less than my typical 1,500. So obviously my new goal structure is making me play slightly less volume. I shouldn't say making me play slightly less volume, I should say enabling me to play slightly less volume. This isn't really concerning to me yet, but we're definitely going to keep an eye on it if my volume does lack going forward. Just a little thing we need to keep an eye on. In terms of results from today, I did end up losing 235 across both sessions. In terms of my gameplay grade, however, I'm going to give myself a B. I said in the morning that I really did want to focus in on what every single one of my opponents is doing, and I do feel like I did that fairly well today, but particularly towards the second session and the later parts of the first session, I really did start to fatigue and was sort of less keeping up with it as new people would join the table and whatnot, and I felt like my grasp on what their strategy was, what they were doing, wasn't as good, definitely not as good as it was yesterday when I did it. I definitely do have to downgrade myself for that, at least a little bit, even if I do like when I was doing that in the earlier parts of the session when I was less fatigued. The other thing I do want to downgrade myself a bit for is low volume, and I know I say I wasn't going to do that anymore, but my plan was to keep playing through until I wasn't playing my A game anymore. I honestly think for a good 2.5 hours today, I probably was playing my B game throughout the session, and I really didn't stop at any point. I sort of just pushed through and I sort of played just very tight, just trying to get hands in. Definitely wasn't keyed in, focused, competitive like I am when I'm playing my A game. So yeah, just definitely don't deserve the A grade from today. So we're gonna go with the B. So whilst I was pretty disappointed with some of the hands I did play throughout the course of the session, I definitely did like a lot of the plays I made as well. This next hand is probably somewhere in the middle of those two extremes in terms of how I feel about my play, mostly because I'm unsure. So let's get into the hand and I'll show you what I mean. the action falls to me under the gun and I have pocket queens. I go ahead and raise it up to 5. Then I get a call from a loose passive cutoff calls, as does a loose aggressive button. So we go 3 ways to a flop of 8-8 deuce with 2 clubs. I have the queen of clubs myself, so obviously the action's on me now, and I have a pretty interesting decision whether I want to c-bet or check. The reasons I would like c-betting here are for value. Pretty obviously, we do have a very strong hand here with our overpair, with the backdoor flush draw. If our opponents did cold call with any pocket pairs, which I think they both are cold calling with a lot of pocket pairs, I think they're going to call at least one bet on this flop in particular. Plus there's flush draws or maybe even some ace high floats people want to call in position. I do like checking as well though, and the reasons I like checking here are we are out of position to 2 people, and one of those players is a loose aggressive, so we can definitely check to induce a bet from a worse hand. Plus, being a bit cautious on this board does make a bit of sense just because both of our opponents are going to have more 8x hands in their range, and so they can go ahead and bet to represent those, or being cautious in case they do have trips is a good idea as well, particularly out of position. So ultimately I do decide to check here, but I think there's merit to both options. So I check, the cutoff checks, then the button goes ahead and bets. They go ahead and make it 6. The action's back on me now, and I think I have a very easy decision to call this bet. I think raising would be a bit of an overplay. Plus our opponent is loose aggressive, so we want to give them more rope to just keep betting off with their bluffs. So I decide to just call. Then the cutoff calls as well. So we're still 3 ways to the turn, which is the 9 of clubs. The action's on me here, and I have a pretty easy decision to go ahead and check here. Then the cutoff checks as well. The action's on the button, and they keep betting at it. They go ahead and make it 24. The action's back on me now, and I'll be honest, this is actually a pretty gross spot here with my queens, just because obviously I'm concerned either of my opponents could have a flush now. I think both of them are going to be calling pre-flop with a lot of ace-x of clubs type hands, jack-10 of clubs, also 7-6 clubs. So both of these players potentially have a lot of flushes in their range. Additionally, obviously I lose to any 8 now. I really don't think the cutoff has an 8, but I definitely think the button could potentially have an 8 in their range. 8-7 suited, 8-6 suited, ace-8 suited, etc. are all very reasonable 8s that my opponent could have in their hand. So I do think there's a lot of merit to folding here. However, I do think there's a lot of merit to calling as well. And one of the reasons is we have the queen of clubs ourselves. So if my opponent is betting an 8 or like a 7 high flush draw, we still have outs to improve on their hands. And additionally, when we do check the flop, check call on the flop, pocket queens with a club is definitely going to be one of the stronger hands in my range. And against a loose aggressive player that's betting off, we definitely want to defend part of our range. And this is one of the stronger hands I can do it with. So I do ultimately decide to call here, but I wouldn't fault anyone for folding, particularly with the cutoff still to act. I think it's unlikely they have an 8, but they definitely have a lot of flushes in their range. So that's something we do have to be concerned about. Fortunately, when the action gets to the cutoff, they do fold. And honestly, I'm pretty relieved by that. So we are heads up to the river still with the button. The river's a pretty interesting one. It is the 9 of hearts. When the action's on me, obviously I'm just going to go ahead and check it to the natural aggressor. That's what I do. And then they tank a bit before going ahead and betting 53. So the action's back on me now with my pocket queens, and this is a pretty gross spot because like I've been saying this whole hand, we lose to an 8, we lose to a flush. Now we also lose to a 9, but I just want to go ahead and say straight off the top, I do not think my opponent has any 9s in their range. They definitely might c-bet with some 9x hands as a bluff, but they're probably just going to go ahead and check a 9 on the turn when I have a lot of overpairs in my range. The cutoff had a bunch of flushes, so I just think my opponent never shows up with a 9 here unless it's specifically 9-8 suited, but still concerned that I do lose to any 8 or any flush, and I definitely think a loose aggressive opponent is going to go ahead and bet a flush for value on this river, even though there is a double paired board. But let's talk about the hands I beat. I definitely think my opponent potentially could be bluffing with a hand that's like ace of clubs X, and they have a few of those in their range, like pre-flop. I think a loose aggressive opponent's probably going to go ahead and 3-bet ace king, ace queen, and ace jack as well. But ace 10 offsuit is definitely a hand they could flat with in positions like ace of clubs, 10 of diamonds, for example. I definitely think they have a few of those hands in their range, but when I compare those to all the turn flushes and the 8x hands, actually think I'm way behind here, and even though my opponent didn't bet that large on the river, I still don't think I'm getting the right price to call against that range of hands. So ultimately, I do decide to fold the pocket queens there. So it's about 9 p.m. at the moment in Melbourne, and I'm just editing today's vlog, and I went back to Ignition to check the hand histories, and my opponent actually did end up having a7 of clubs. So absolutely stoked they did fold, considering my opponent had the nut flush and they were betting for value on the river, which is a good read by them. I did have a lot of overpairs in my range there, but absolutely stoked that I did fold, because if they have ace7 of clubs, they probably have ace4 of clubs, ace5 of clubs, etc. Just a bunch of nut flushes there, and really happy that I did get away from it with the river fold, not only from the results point of view, but also I think in the long run it's probably the right play, considering my opponent does have that many flushes. So let me know what you think about that river fold. Obviously pretty close decision there. Hop in the comments below and let me know what you think. What do you do on the river? Do you go ahead and call the bet, or do you do what I do, play it cautious and end up folding the pocket queens there? Hop in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Super curious to hear what you guys think. I definitely see a lot of merit to either option, and always looking to crowdsource some ideas on how to play this poker. That's going to wrap up another vlog for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I really do appreciate you sticking all the way to the end of the video. That really helps the channel out, believe it or not. And another thing that helps the channel out is hitting the subscribe button. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. That'll help me out so much. For now, I'm out of here. Peace.